In a world that gleamed with the shine of futuristic technology, where skyscrapers pierced the clouds and machines seemed to think for themselves, Ellen DeGeneres was a name everyone knew. She was sharp, quick-witted, and ruled the airwaves with her talk show that made millions laugh every day. Ellen's humor was clever but often biting, especially when it came to topics she didn't quite believe in, like religion or faith. In this age of advanced science and space travel, such ideas felt outdated to many, including Ellen. But little did she know, one small joke would set off a chain of events that would change everything. It all started on a typical morning inside the sleek modern studio where Ellen filmed her show. The audience buzzed with excitement as they waited for their favorite host to walk out onto the stage. Cameras whirred, lights blazed, and the crew bustled around making sure everything was perfect. Today's episode promised to be entertaining, because Ellen had invited some unique guests, people who were quirky, unusual, or just plain interesting enough to make good television. One of these guests was Karoline Leavitt, a quiet woman in her early 30s who looked completely out of place among the glitz and glamour of the show. Karoline wasn't famous, nor was she particularly flashy. She worked as a librarian in a small town far from the bustling city where Ellen lived. Her appearance was simple: soft brown hair pulled back into a neat ponytail, glasses perched on her nose, and clothes that were practical rather than stylish. What caught Ellen's attention, though, was the silver cross hanging around Karoline's neck. It wasn't large or ornate, just a modest piece of jewelry that seemed to hold deep meaning for its wearer. When the cameras rolled and the theme music played, Ellen bounded onto the stage with her signature energy. The crowd erupted into applause, cheering wildly as she greeted them with a wave and a grin. After a few jokes to warm up the audience, Ellen introduced Karoline. "Next up," Ellen said with a playful smirk, "we have someone who believes in something, let's say, a little old-fashioned." The audience chuckled politely as Karoline walked onto the stage, clutching her hands nervously. Ellen gestured for Karoline to sit down across from her, and once they were settled, she leaned forward with feigned curiosity. "So, Karoline," Ellen began, raising an eyebrow for dramatic effect, "you're here because you've got this whole faith thing going on, right? Tell us about that." Karoline nodded, her voice soft but steady. "Yes, I do. My faith is really important to me. It gives me strength and helps me stay grounded, even when life gets tough." Ellen tilted her head, pretending to ponder deeply. "Grounded, huh? Well, I guess if you're looking for grounding, wearing a cross is one way to do it. Though honestly, in this day and age, isn't that kind of retro?" A ripple of laughter spread through the audience, and Ellen grinned, clearly pleased with herself. Karoline didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled gently and replied, "Maybe it seems old-fashioned to some people, but my cross reminds me of something bigger than myself. Something eternal." Ellen raised her hands in mock surrender. "Whoa, okay, eternal is a big word. Let's not get too philosophical here." More laughter followed, and Ellen launched into another quip about how maybe Karoline should upgrade her accessory to something more high-tech, like a smartwatch or a hologram pendant. The audience loved it, clapping and hooting as Ellen delivered punchline after punchline. But while the jokes landed perfectly, there was something unsettling beneath the surface. As the segment wrapped up and Karoline left the stage, Ellen couldn't shake the feeling that she'd missed something. For a brief moment during the interview, Karoline's calm demeanor had struck a chord within her, a flicker of doubt that perhaps she'd been too quick to dismiss the idea of faith entirely. Still, Ellen brushed it off. After all, she told herself, it was just another episode of her show, nothing more. That night, however, strange things began happening. Across the city, people reported seeing eerie lights flickering in the sky. Streetlights dimmed and brightened unpredictably, and electronic devices acted strangely. Phones rebooted randomly, televisions displayed static, and cars stalled without warning. At first, no one paid much attention. Everyone assumed it was just a technical glitch or a power surge caused by overuse of energy grids. But then came the whispers. People claimed to hear faint voices murmuring in languages they couldn't understand. Some swore they saw glowing symbols etched into the air, hovering above rooftops before vanishing like smoke. Social media exploded with videos and photos, capturing these phenomena, each post generating thousands of comments debating whether it was a prank, a government experiment, or something else entirely. Ellen noticed the stories while scrolling through her phone late at night. She sat in her luxurious penthouse apartment sipping tea and scrolling aimlessly when a headline caught her eye. Mysterious lights appear over major cities worldwide. Intrigued, she clicked on the article and skimmed through the details. Witnesses described the lights as otherworldly, pulsating with colors unlike anything seen before. Others mentioned hearing whispers that sent chills down their spines. At first, Ellen chalked it up to mass hysteria or some elaborate marketing stunt. But as she scrolled further, she stumbled upon a video posted by someone claiming to have filmed the glowing symbols. The clip was shaky and poorly lit, but the symbols were unmistakable. They floated mid-air, shimmering like fireflies before disappearing. Ellen stared at the screen, her heart pounding faster than she cared to admit. There was something undeniably real about what she was seeing. She tried to distract herself by watching reruns of her own show, but her mind kept drifting back to the interview with Karoline earlier that day. That cross around her neck suddenly seemed less like a relic of the past and more like a key to understanding what was happening now. Frustrated with herself for even entertaining such thoughts, Ellen tossed her phone aside and went to bed, hoping sleep would erase the nagging, feeling gnawing at the edges of her consciousness. Little did she know the strange occurrences were only beginning. Far away from the glittering city, astronomers peered through powerful telescopes and spotted something extraordinary, an object hurtling toward Earth at incredible speed. Its trajectory defied known laws of physics, and its composition baffled even the brightest minds. Scientists scrambled to analyze the data, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't explain what it was or where it had come from. Back in the city, life continued as usual for most people. They laughed at Ellen's jokes, complained about traffic, and scrolled endlessly through social media feeds. Yet beneath the surface, tension simmered. Something was coming, and though no one could say exactly what it was, everyone felt it in their bones. Even Ellen, skeptic that she was, couldn't deny the growing sense of unease creeping into her thoughts. As the days passed, the strange phenomena grew more frequent and intense. Lights danced across the skies nightly and whispers echoed louder, clearer. People began gathering in parks and open spaces, staring upward in awe and fear. Some prayed, others cried, and a few simply stood frozen, unable to comprehend what they were witnessing. Through it all, Ellen found herself drawn back to Karoline's words. That simple statement about believing in something eternal lingered in her mind, refusing to fade away. Could there truly be something greater out there, something beyond human understanding? These questions haunted her, pushing her closer to a truth she never expected to confront. And so, as the mysterious object drew nearer to Earth, Ellen realized that mocking faith might have been easier than facing the unknown. But ignorance wouldn't protect her forever. Whatever was coming, it demanded answers, and Ellen knew deep down that finding them would require more courage than she ever thought she possessed. The next morning, Ellen, Karoline, and Ryan set out for the old cathedral on the outskirts of the city. The journey took them through winding roads lined with overgrown trees and crumbling buildings, remnants of a time long past. The air felt heavier here, as if the weight of history pressed down on everything. When they finally arrived, the cathedral loomed before them like a forgotten giant. Its stone walls were cracked and covered in ivy, its stained glass windows shattered, letting in beams of sunlight that danced across the dusty floor. Ellen hesitated at the entrance, her sharp wit dulled by the eerie silence surrounding the place. "Are we sure this is safe?" she asked, glancing nervously at the others. "It looks like it could collapse any second." Ryan grinned, his excitement bubbling over. "That's the fun part," he said. "You never know what you'll find until you take the risk." Karoline didn't say anything. She simply stepped forward, her hand instinctively reaching for the cross around her neck. There was something about this place that called to her, a pull she couldn't explain but felt deep in her chest. As they walked inside, the sound of their footsteps echoed through the vast, empty space. Dust swirled in the air, catching the light from the broken windows above. The interior of the cathedral was both beautiful and haunting. Faded frescoes adorned the walls, depicting scenes of angels and saints. Pews lay scattered and overturned, their wood rotting away. At the far end of the room stood an altar, its surface cracked and worn. Behind it was a large wooden door, sealed shut with rusted iron bolts. "This must be it," Ryan whispered, pointing to the door. "If there's anything hidden here, it's probably behind that." Ellen crossed her arms, skeptical as ever. "And how exactly do you plan to get through? It looks like it hasn't been opened in centuries." Ryan knelt down, examining the lock. "We might not need to break it," he said. "Sometimes these old doors have mechanisms triggered by symbols or patterns. Look around, see if anything stands out." They spread out, searching for clues. Ellen wandered toward one of the side aisles, brushing cobwebs aside as she inspected the carvings on the walls. Her fingers traced over intricate designs of stars, moons, and strange geometric shapes. For a moment, she thought she saw one of the symbols glow faintly, but when she blinked, it was gone. Meanwhile, Karoline found herself drawn to a small crypt tucked away in a shadowy corner of the cathedral. The entrance was marked by a weathered stone slab engraved with Latin words she didn't understand. Something about it felt familiar, as if she'd seen it in one of her dreams. She pushed the slab aside, revealing a narrow staircase leading downward. "Guys," she called softly, waving them over. "I think I found something." Ellen and Ryan hurried to join her, peering cautiously into the dark passageway. A faint hum filled the air, low and steady, like the sound of distant machinery. Karoline pulled out her phone to use as a flashlight and started descending the stairs, the others following close behind. At the bottom, they entered a chamber unlike anything they'd expected. The room was circular, its walls lined with shelves holding ancient books, scrolls, and artifacts. In the center stood a pedestal, atop which rested a leather-bound journal. The pages were yellowed with age, but the writing inside was still legible. Karoline picked it up carefully, her hands trembling as she flipped through the entries. "It's a monk's diary," she murmured, scanning the text. His name was Samuel. He wrote about visions he had, visions of lights in the sky, just like the ones we're seeing now. He called them signs of awakening. Ellen leaned over her shoulder, reading aloud. "The key of eternity lies hidden, waiting for those who seek truth beyond the veil." What does that even mean? Ryan's eyes lit up. "It means we're on the right track. This key, it's real. And if we can find it, we might be able to figure out what's happening." As they continued exploring the chamber, they discovered more relics, chalices etched with celestial patterns, amulets glowing faintly in the dim light, and a map marked with locations across the globe. One spot on the map caught Karoline's attention, a temple located deep underground not far from where they were standing. "This has to be it," she said, pointing to the map. "Whatever we're looking for, it's there." The group quickly gathered their findings and left the cathedral, eager to follow the trail. Along the way, they noticed that the cross Karoline wore had begun to emit a soft, golden glow whenever they approached certain areas marked on the map. It was as if the artifact was guiding them, responding to some unseen force. Their destination turned out to be an abandoned subway station, its tunnels long since forgotten by the modern world. The air was damp and cold, the walls slick with moisture. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing in the silence. Every so often, the golden glow from Karoline's cross would intensify, leading them deeper into the labyrinth. Finally, they reached a massive steel door reinforced with chains and locks. Ryan examined it closely, running his fingers over the intricate carvings etched into the metal. "This is it," he said. "The final barrier." Ellen frowned. "Great. Now what? Do we knock and hope someone answers?" Karoline stepped forward, her expression determined. "Let me try." She placed her hand on the door, closing her eyes as if listening for something. Slowly, the chains began to rattle, and the locks clicked open one by one. The door creaked, inward, revealing a cavernous chamber bathed in ethereal light. Inside, suspended in midair, was the key of eternity. It was a crystalline object, shaped like a teardrop and pulsating with energy. Its surface shimmered with colors that seemed to shift and change, reflecting emotions rather than mere light. The air around it vibrated with power, making it difficult to look at directly. Karoline approached it slowly, her heart pounding. As her fingers brushed against the key, visions flooded her mind, images of humanity's past, present, and potential future. She saw wars and peace, destruction and creation, despair and hope. The voice from her dreams returned, speaking clearly this time. "You have been chosen," it said. "The key holds the power to stabilize the object in the sky. But only if you believe in its purpose. Humanity stands at a crossroads. Will you guide them toward unity, or will fear drive them further apart?" Tears streamed down Karoline's face as the weight of the responsibility settled over her. She turned to Ellen and Ryan, who stood frozen in awe. "We have to act quickly," she said. "If we don't, the object will collide with Earth and no one knows what will happen then." Ellen stared at her, torn between disbelief and wonder. "You really think this thing can save us?" Karoline nodded. "I don't know how, but I trust it. And I think we need to trust each other too." For the first time, Ellen felt a flicker of faith, not in some abstract idea of God or destiny, but in the possibility that maybe, just maybe, they could make a difference. Together. The group stood in silence, the weight of the moment pressing down on them. The key of eternity hovered before them, its pulsating light casting shifting shadows on the walls of the underground chamber. Karoline clutched it gently in her hands, feeling its energy course through her like a heartbeat. Ellen and Ryan exchanged uncertain glances, unsure of what to do next, but knowing they had no choice but to trust Karoline's instincts. "We need to get this key to the surface," Karoline said finally, her voice steady despite the storm of emotions swirling inside her. "If we can align it with the object in the sky, maybe we can stabilize it." Ellen raised an eyebrow. "Align it? How exactly are we supposed to do that? Point it at the sky and hope for the best?" Ryan stepped forward, his expression serious. "It's not about pointing, it's about intention. The key responds to belief, to faith. If we focus our thoughts and actions on unity and hope, it might amplify its power." Ellen let out a frustrated sigh. Faith and hope aren't going to stop whatever's coming. We need a plan, a real one. Karoline turned to face her, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "Maybe faith is the plan, Ellen. Maybe believing in something greater than ourselves is the only way to save us." For a moment, Ellen wanted to argue, to dismiss the idea as nonsense. But deep down, she knew there was truth in Karoline's words. She thought about all the times she'd mocked faith, ridiculed those who believed in things she couldn't see or understand. Now faced with something beyond her comprehension, she realized how small her skepticism seemed in comparison. "Fine," Ellen said after a pause. "Let's say you're right. What do we do?" Karoline nodded toward the map they'd brought from the cathedral. "There's a location marked here, an open field outside the city. It's aligned perfectly with the object in the sky. If we go there and use the key, maybe we can connect with it somehow." Without wasting another second, the trio hurried back through the tunnels, their footsteps echoing in the silence. The glow from the key grew brighter as they ascended, lighting their path like a beacon. When they emerged into the cool night air, the world around them seemed eerily still. The usual hum of the city was gone, replaced by an unsettling quiet. Even the stars above appeared dimmer, overshadowed by the massive object now clearly visible in the sky. They drove to the designated spot, a vast open field surrounded by trees. The grass swayed gently in the breeze, and the air carried a faint metallic tang. As they stepped out of the car, the object loomed overhead, its surface shimmering with colors that defied description. It pulsed rhythmically, almost as if it were alive. "This is it," Karoline whispered, holding the key tightly. "We have to act now." Ellen took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Okay, so what's the first step?" Karoline closed her eyes, focusing on the energy radiating from the key. "We need to channel our thoughts, our intentions into it. Think about peace, about bringing people together. Focus on hope. Ryan placed a hand on Karoline's shoulder. You've got this, he said firmly. Whatever happens, we're with you. Ellen hesitated, then stepped closer, placing her hand over Karoline's. Yeah, she muttered. Let's do this. Together, they formed a circle around the key, each person closing their eyes and concentrating. At first, nothing happened. The wind picked up slightly, rustling the leaves in the nearby trees, but the object in the sky remained unchanged. Doubt crept into Ellen's mind, whispering that this was all pointless, that they were wasting precious time. But then, something shifted. The key began to vibrate, its light growing brighter and more intense. A low hum filled the air, resonating with the rhythm of the object above. Karoline felt warmth spread through her body, followed by a surge of clarity. Images flashed before her eyes, people coming together, helping one another, finding strength in unity. She shared these visions with the others, their minds connected through the key's power. Suddenly, a beam of light shot upward from the key, piercing the darkness and connecting with the object in the sky. For a moment, everything froze. The wind stopped, the ground trembled, and the air crackled with energy. Then, slowly, the object began to change. Its chaotic movements smoothed out, and its pulsating colors softened into a gentle, calming glow. It's working, Ryan exclaimed, his voice filled with awe. Ellen stared upward, her heart pounding. She had spent years mocking ideas like faith in miracles. Yet here she was, witnessing something she could never have imagined. Her skepticism wavered, replaced by a sense of wonder and gratitude. As the connection between the key and the object stabilized, the symbols that had been appearing across the globe began to fade. The eerie whispers that had haunted cities disappeared, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of calm. People everywhere looked up at the sky, their fear melting away as they felt a profound sense of peace wash over them. Karoline lowered the key, her hands trembling but her spirit soaring. It's done, she said softly. We did it. Ellen sank to her knees, overwhelmed by a mix of emotions. She had always prided herself on being sharp, quick-witted, and unshakable. But now she felt vulnerable in a way she hadn't expected. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at Karoline. I'm sorry, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. For everything I said before, for doubting you, for mocking your faith. I was wrong. Karoline smiled gently, kneeling beside her. Kneeling. It's okay, Ellen. Sometimes we need to question things before we can truly understand them. Ryan joined them, his face glowing with pride. This is just the beginning, he said. People will remember this moment. They'll remember how we came together when it mattered most. Back in the city, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as close to normal as it could be after such an event. News outlets scrambled to report on the mysterious phenomenon that had vanished as quickly as it had appeared. Scientists offered theories ranging from atmospheric anomalies to extraterrestrial communication, but none could fully explain what had happened. Social media buzzed with stories of people coming together during the crisis, sharing acts of kindness and solidarity. Ellen returned to her studio the next day, her mind racing with thoughts about how to address the events. She sat alone in the empty room, staring at the cameras and microphones that had once been tools for laughter and entertainment. Today, they would serve a different purpose. When the show began, Ellen walked onto the stage without her usual playful demeanor. The audience greeted her with applause, but she held up a hand to silence them. I want to talk to you all about something important, she said, her voice steady and sincere. Over the past few days, we've all experienced something extraordinary, something that reminded us of how fragile and precious life really is. She went on to share her journey, from dismissing Karoline's faith to standing beside her in the field under the glowing object. She spoke openly about her doubts, her fears, and ultimately, her newfound respect for the power of belief. Faith isn't about blind acceptance, she concluded. It's about trusting in something bigger than yourself, even when you don't have all the answers. And sometimes, It takes stepping into the unknown to realize that. The audience erupted into applause, many wiping tears from their eyes. Ellen felt a weight lift off her shoulders, replaced by a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. For the first time, she understood that laughter wasn't the only way to connect with people. Sometimes, honesty and vulnerability could bridge gaps that jokes never could. Meanwhile, Karoline became a guiding figure for those seeking spiritual clarity. She traveled across the country, sharing her experiences and encouraging others to embrace hope and unity. The key of eternity remained with her, its glow dimmed but still present, a reminder of the responsibility she carried. As weeks turned into months, the world began to heal. People rebuilt relationships, forgave old grudges, and found new ways to support one another. The memory of the celestial event lingered, not as a source of fear but as a symbol of humanity's potential for growth and redemption. Ellen continued hosting her show, but it evolved into something deeper. She dedicated segments to uplifting stories, interviews with inspiring individuals, and discussions about life's big questions. Her humor remained, but it was tempered with wisdom and empathy. And though the world remained imperfect, the event served as a reminder that even in the darkest times, there is always a spark of light waiting to guide the way. For Ellen, Karoline, and countless others, that spark had ignited a transformation, one that would shape the future in ways no one could have predicted. Ellen woke up the next morning feeling uneasy. The strange events from the previous night lingered in her mind like a shadow she couldn't shake off. She turned on the news while sipping her coffee, hoping to find some rational explanation for what was happening. But instead of answers, she found more questions. Reporters were scrambling to make sense of the glowing symbols that had appeared in multiple cities around the world. Experts debated whether it was a natural phenomenon, an alien message, or something entirely different. None of them sounded convincing. Her phone buzzed constantly with notifications, tweets, messages, and emails flooding in about the mysterious lights and symbols. Some people joked that it was a publicity stunt for a new sci-fi movie, while others claimed it was proof of extraterrestrial life. A few even suggested it was a sign of divine intervention. Ellen rolled her eyes at that last theory, but couldn't help noticing how many people seemed genuinely frightened. It wasn't just the usual panic over unexplained phenomena. There was a deeper sense of dread in the air, as if humanity itself was being tested. Determined to get to the bottom of things, Ellen decided to visit Dr. Laura Bennett, one of the most respected astrophysicists in the country. Laura worked at a high-tech observatory located on the outskirts of the city, far from the bright lights that obscured the stars. Ellen had interviewed Laura once before for a segment about space exploration, so she figured the scientist might be willing to give her some insight into what was going on. When Ellen arrived at the observatory, she was struck by how quiet it felt compared to the chaos of the city. The building was sleek and modern, its walls lined with solar panels and reflective glass. Inside, the atmosphere was calm but tense. Scientists moved briskly between rooms, their faces etched with worry as they analyzed data streaming in from satellites and telescopes. Laura greeted Ellen warmly, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I wish I could say this is a social call," Ellen said, trying to lighten the mood. "But I need your help figuring out what's happening." Laura nodded solemnly. "You're not the only one asking questions. We've been monitoring these anomalies since they started, and I can tell you this much: it's not natural. Whatever is causing these lights and symbols isn't following any known laws of physics." Ellen frowned. "So what are you saying? Aliens?" Laura hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "It's possible, but we don't have enough evidence to confirm that. What we do know is that there's an object approaching Earth. It's moving at incredible speeds and emitting energy patterns we've never seen before. If it continues on its current path, it will enter our atmosphere within days." Ellen's stomach tightened. "And then what? Is it dangerous?" "That's the thing. We don't know. It could burn up harmlessly or it could cause catastrophic damage. But based on the readings we're getting, I suspect it's not here to destroy us. It's trying to communicate." "Communicate?" Ellen echoed, raising an eyebrow. "With who? Us?" Laura shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe with someone or something else. Either way, it's clear this isn't random. These symbols appearing in the sky? They match patterns we've detected coming from the object. Someone or something is trying to send a message. Ellen left the observatory feeling more confused than ever. She wanted to dismiss Laura's theories as science fiction nonsense, but the woman's calm professionalism made it hard to ignore. As she drove back to the city, her thoughts kept drifting to Karoline and her cross. Could there really be a connection between the two? That evening, Ellen reached out to Karoline, inviting her to meet for coffee. To her surprise, Karoline agreed. They met at a small cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. The place was cozy, with soft lighting and the smell of freshly baked pastries filling the air. Karoline looked tired but composed, as if she'd been carrying a heavy burden for a long time. So, Ellen began awkwardly after ordering their drinks. You probably heard about all the weird stuff going on lately. Karoline nodded. Yes, I've seen the reports. People are scared. Well, I talked to an astrophysicist today, and apparently there's an object heading toward Earth. She thinks it might be trying to communicate with us. Ellen paused, studying Karoline's expression. Does any of this sound familiar? To you? Karoline hesitated, then sighed. To be honest, I've been having dreams. Vivid ones. There's this voice, always speaking in riddles, telling me that humanity needs to wake up, that we've forgotten something important. Ellen leaned forward, intrigued despite herself. What kind of important thing? I'm not sure, Karoline admitted. But it feels like the answer has something to do with faith. Not religion, necessarily, but belief in something greater than ourselves. Ellen shook her head, exasperated. Faith doesn't solve problems, Karoline. Science does. If this object is real, we need facts, not fairy tales. Karoline smiled softly. Sometimes, faith and science aren't as different as they seem. Both require trust in evidence and reason and hope. And sometimes both lead us to truths we can't fully understand. Before Ellen could respond, a man seated nearby interrupted their conversation. He introduced himself as Ryan Dawson, a former astronaut turned conspiracy theorist. Ryan explained that he'd overheard their discussion and wanted to share his own theories. Reluctantly, Ellen invited him to join them. Ryan launched into an impassioned explanation of how humanity's reliance on technology had blinded it to the existence of higher powers. He believed the object in space was a test, a challenge to see if humans could rise above their divisions and rediscover their spiritual roots. Think about it, he said earnestly. Every major civilization throughout history has recorded similar events. Lights in the sky, mysterious symbols, voices in the wind. They always coincide with moments of crisis or awakening. Ellen listened skeptically, rolling her eyes at some of Ryan's wilder claims. But when he mentioned ancient artifacts tied to celestial events, her curiosity piqued. What kind of artifacts? She asked. There are legends, Ryan replied. Stories of relics hidden in places untouched by time. Objects imbued with power beyond human understanding. Some say they hold the key to unlocking humanity's true potential. Karoline's eyes widened. Like the key of eternity? Ryan stared at her, astonished. How do you know about that? Karoline explained that she'd been dreaming about it too. The key of eternity, a crystalline device said to bridge the gap between worlds. According to the visions, it was hidden somewhere on Earth, waiting to be found. Ellen groaned. Okay, now you're losing me. Crystalline devices, hidden keys, this sounds like a bad fantasy novel. But deep down, she couldn't deny the spark of intrigue flickering inside her. If nothing else, the idea of searching for an ancient artifact offered a distraction from the growing unease gripping the world. Besides, if anyone could separate fact from fiction, it was her. By the end of the meeting, Ellen reluctantly agreed to help Karoline and Ryan investigate further. They decided to start by visiting an old cathedral rumored to contain relics from centuries past. The building had been abandoned for decades, its crumbling structure standing as a testament to a forgotten era. Despite her skepticism, Ellen couldn't help feeling a thrill of excitement as they prepared to uncover whatever secrets lay hidden within its walls. As they parted ways, Ellen glanced at Karoline's cross one last time. For the first time, she allowed herself to wonder if there might be more to it than met the eye. Maybe, just maybe, the answers they sought weren't as far-fetched as they seemed. Months had passed since the celestial event, and the world was still adjusting to its aftermath. Life hadn't returned to the way it was before. How could it? The strange lights, glowing symbols, and the mysterious object in the sky had left an indelible mark on humanity. People were different now, quieter perhaps, but also more thoughtful. Conversations that once revolved around trivial matters now often turned to deeper topics: faith, hope, unity, and what it meant to be human. Ellen DeGeneres found herself at the center of this shift, though not in the way she might have expected. Her talk show, once known for its lighthearted banter and comedic sketches, had transformed into a platform for meaningful dialogue. Ellen no longer shied away from discussing difficult subjects. Instead, she embraced them, inviting guests who inspired others with their stories of resilience, kindness, and courage. She even began hosting segments where everyday people shared how the celestial event had changed their lives. Some spoke of reuniting with estranged family members, while others described acts of generosity they'd witnessed or participated in during those uncertain days. For Ellen, the change wasn't just professional, it was personal. She spent hours reflecting on her own journey, from mocking Karoline's faith to standing beside her under the glowing object in the sky. That moment had forced her to confront parts of herself she'd long ignored: her doubts, her fears, and her tendency to dismiss anything she couldn't explain. It wasn't easy admitting she'd been wrong, but doing so had opened doors she never knew existed. Her relationships deepened, both with her audience and with the people closest to her. For the first time in years, Ellen felt truly connected, not just to others, but to herself. Karoline Leavitt, too, had undergone a profound transformation. Once a quiet librarian content to live in the shadows, she now stood confidently in the spotlight, guiding others through their own spiritual awakenings. The key of eternity remained with her, its glow dimmed but ever present, a constant reminder of the responsibility she carried. Karoline traveled across the country, speaking at community centers, churches, and schools. Her message was simple, yet powerful. Faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about trusting that there's something greater than ourselves, something that connects us all. People listened. They came to her talk seeking comfort, clarity, and purpose. Many left feeling lighter, as if a weight they didn't realize they'd been carrying had finally lifted. Karoline's humility and sincerity resonated with everyone she met, and soon, she became a symbol of hope for countless individuals struggling to make sense of the world. Ryan Dawson, the former astronaut turned conspiracy theorist, also found his place in the new reality. While he hadn't achieved the fame or recognition some might have expected, he was content working behind the scenes. He collaborated with scientists, historians, and spiritual leaders, piecing together fragments of ancient texts and artifacts related to celestial events throughout history. His research suggested that similar phenomena had occurred before, each time coinciding with pivotal moments in human evolution. Though his theories remained controversial, they sparked important conversations about humanity's place in the universe. As for the mysterious object in the sky, it eventually faded from view, leaving only memories and lingering questions. Scientists continued studying the data collected during its appearance, but no definitive explanation emerged. Was it a message from an advanced civilization, a test from a higher power, or simply a natural phenomenon misunderstood by human perception? No one could say for sure. And perhaps that was the point. Not everything needed to be explained to hold meaning. Back in the city, life moved forward, albeit at a slower pace. People took time to appreciate the little things: sunsets, laughter, shared meals. Acts of kindness became commonplace, almost expected. Neighbors helped one another without hesitation. Strangers struck up conversations in grocery store aisles, and communities rallied together to support those in need. Fear hadn't disappeared entirely, It lingered in the corners of people's minds, but it no longer controlled them. Hope had taken root, and it was growing stronger every day. One evening, Ellen invited Karoline and Ryan to join her for dinner at her penthouse apartment. The three sat on the balcony overlooking the city, sipping wine and reminiscing about the events that had brought them together. The skyline shimmered with lights, a testament to humanity's resilience and ingenuity. "I never thought I'd see the day when you, Ellen DeGeneres, would start talking about faith on national television," Ryan teased, raising his glass in a mock toast. Ellen chuckled, shaking her head. "Neither did I. But here we are. Sometimes life throws you curveballs, and you just have to roll with them." Karoline smiled softly. "It wasn't just about faith, though. It was about trust. In ourselves, in each other, and in the idea that we're capable of more than we think." Ryan nodded. "And look at what happened when we trusted each other. We stopped something catastrophic, or at least we think we did." "The truth is," Ellen said, leaning back in her chair, "we may never fully understand what happened, but does it really matter? What matters is how it changed us, for the better." The conversation drifted to lighter topics, and for a while they laughed and joked like old friends. But as the night wore on, a reflective silence settled over them. Each person was lost in their own thoughts, contemplating the journey they'd been on and the road ahead. Eventually, Karoline broke the quiet. "Do you think we'll ever see something like that again?" she asked, gesturing toward the sky. "Another event? Another sign?" Ryan shrugged. "Who knows? Maybe. Or maybe it was a one-time thing, a wake-up call. Either way, I think we're ready now. We've learned to listen, to pay attention." Ellen gazed up at the stars, her expression thoughtful. "You know, I used to think faith was outdated, irrelevant, but now I see it differently. Faith isn't about believing in something specific. It's about believing in possibility, in potential, in the idea that no matter how dark things get, there's always a chance for light." Karoline reached out, placing a hand on Ellen's arm. "That's exactly it," she said. "Faith gives us strength when we need it most, and sometimes it shows us miracles we never thought possible." As the night deepened, the trio lingered on the balcony, watching the city below. The hum of distant traffic blended with the rustle of leaves in the breeze, creating a soothing symphony. Above them, the stars twinkled brightly, their light steady and unwavering. Life wasn't perfect, far from it. Challenges still loomed, conflict still simmered, and uncertainty remained a constant companion. But for the first time, in a long time, people faced these obstacles with a renewed sense of purpose. They remembered the lessons learned during those chaotic days, that unity was stronger than division, that hope could overcome fear, and that faith, whether in God, in humanity, or in something else entirely, had the power to transform. Ellen glanced at Karoline, then at Ryan, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. These two unlikely allies had shown her a side of life she'd almost forgotten existed. Through their courage and belief, they had reminded her of the greatness within herself, and within everyone. As they parted ways later that night, Ellen hugged Karoline tightly. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." Karoline smiled, her eyes shining with warmth. "We couldn't have done it without you, Ellen, remember that." And with that, they went their separate ways, carrying with them the knowledge that they had made a difference, not just in their own lives, but in the lives of countless others. The world was still imperfect, still flawed, but it was moving forward. Together.